Welcome back to your Pig Trail Show. Kevin McPherson along with us for your Hog Hoops Report. Kevin, yesterday's game, Kentucky, is one that we had circled on our calendar all year long. It was that home and home they were talking about before the season started yesterday. Obviously, at Bud Walton, not going in favor of the Razorbacks there. What did you take away from that last final game of the regular season?
Man, apparently not only does defense not travel, but it doesn't stay home either. This has been a
Nope.
problem from Arkansas. If I had to pick anything, and there's a lot of stuff to pick out, because we know this is a team that has trouble areas, especially on offense, but defense is where this team has really fallen short. In these last three games, three consecutive losses, it really started in the second half against Alabama and has continued. Second half against Bama, entire games against Tennessee and Kentucky, where those teams shot 50+% in all those halves in those, so basically, the last, just doing simple math here, the last five halves of basketball, Arkansas's defense has been a letdown, and it seems to get worse in the second halves. And that's really what I saw against Kentucky. To me, Arkansas's front line, this is the biggest backslide I've seen in terms of rim protection, cutting off drives are helping. And then Arkansas, there's a lot of drop coverage when Arkansas is dealing in those rub screens and other two-man game scenarios with out on the floor. And guys are there's just a soft spot. Opponents are able to get in these open areas. And, yesterday, Antonio Reeves is a guy, he's a veteran guy, a transfer from Illinois State, but he's a guy that is, when you look at a box score, if he's not scoring the ball and he's not efficient, he's not helping Kentucky a whole lot because he's not doing a lot of other things. But yesterday, man, he clocked Arkansas over the head, 37 points, 12 of 17 from the field, made all of his free throws, 11 of 11. That was just him in concert with Jacob Toppin, the forward who really struggled in the first game when Arkansas won by 15 at Kentucky, a guy that knocked down shots and hit some clutch shots. Both of those players did. But having said all that, Arkansas won a lot of different the miniature battles in this game on Saturday against Kentucky. But when you go 2 of 20 at the rim with layups, Arkansas had 7 dunks. They were 7 of 7 there. But on layups, 2 of 20, that's 10%. And then you go 22 of 34 at the foul line, 64%. I don't care where you're playing, Will. It's hard to win against quality competition. Kentucky's a team that's now won 5 of its last 7 games. Mm-hmm. Arkansas, conversely, has lost 5 of 7. All of those are markers after Arkansas went and got its best win of the season in Rupp. Man, that seems like forever ago. It was just a month ago, early February. So we can talk about all the negatives. Arkansas minus 10 in points in the paint. That's going to happen when you're 2 of 20 on layups because that's in the paint, and that means you're just not getting it done.
Yeah, that was bad.
This Arkansas team is so fragile, but defensively, they're not putting a mark. They're not putting their stamp on that end of the floor. We look back at the 2 previous seasons when Arkansas got on rolls, February, March. It started on defense, sound defense, and it was consistent. Arkansas wasn't a great three-point shooting team, and they had some other trouble areas, turnovers, different things that we see maybe even worse, more so this year. But that defense was always reliable, and Arkansas in close games could close them. This team has a hard time closing, whether it's a close, they got blown out at Tennessee, but close games against Bama, relatively close against Kentucky, but it can't get stops. It cannot. It's not getting stops. So that what they're doing on offense to try to make a dent, they can't. The dent's not big enough. Arkansas, was in this game down 4 at halftime. Devo Davis hits a 3 to start the second half to cut a 6-point lead. Early the first 2 minutes, Hogs were down 6. He hits a 3 to cut it within 3. Ensuing possession, he picks up a common foul on defense. Maybe that was a poor call. Then he gets a Class A technical. He's ejected. Kentucky, that Reeves converts that into a 6-point personal possession. Lead swells from 3 to 9. Arkansas hits 1 of 2 free throws. Reeves comes back and hits a 3. And now all of a sudden, within a blink of an eye, a matter of seconds, the deficit went from 3 to 11. And then it's uphill from there. Arkansas only closed within a 2-possession deficit twice the rest of the way. They got within 5, and then they got within 6. Otherwise, and then each time they did, Kentucky would score. And usually it was an open shot. Now, Toppin hit a 3 that was contested at late shot clock. But Arkansas's defense, you see way too many gaps. I think the front line has really been problematic in terms of sometimes they look like cardboard cutouts out there. Whereas that would, these guys, some of these frontline guys, you didn't always measure their contribution statistically in terms of scoring, but a lot of missed chippies by the Arkansas's big men as part of that 2 of 20 around the rim. And then on defense, I think they're not contesting as well. And so everything looks dysfunctional right now on a 3-game skid. But Kentucky at home, not only did Arkansas lose 5 of its last 7 games, but they lost 2 of their last 4 home games. When you go back and add in the Mississippi State result, after going 11-1 with the only loss being against Alabama, and that was back in early January. So Arkansas now goes in. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about postseason here in a little bit. But I think defensively is where I'm the most concerned. With all the other stuff we've talked about, we know how bad the offense can be for stretches or even for majority of games. But the defense certainly can't play like it has been for Arkansas to have any hope or realistic path in the postseason. Elite Eights and national final top 10 rankings the last 2 years, that looks so far off in the distance. And probably, when you look at what's been playing out, probably not realistic to think, there's a viable path to that. But anything can happen in postseason. Arkansas's got the individual pieces. They just aren't. They're just not playing well together at either end right now. And they got to start by fixing it on defense, Will. It's got to start there.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. Hopefully they're able to put this last 3-game stretch behind them for the regular season, heading into the SEC tournament now. They're going in as a 10 seed with Auburn. How do you believe that matchup is going to go? And do you think the team has something to prove here in the tournament?
Well, the team definitely has something to prove in terms of preseason expectations, early in-season expectations. Arkansas navigated non-conference shorthanded for all but 1 game. It was either Nick Smith Jr. out, and then it was Trevor and Brazil lost for the season. But this is a team that is 3-1 in neutral site games, 4-1 if you count the North Little Rock result against Bradley, who won the Missouri Valley Conference. But that's a long time ago, and we see where Arkansas is right now. It's not a good look. Auburn, this is another quad win opportunity now for Arkansas. This will be the 4th in a row, and Arkansas has failed the last 3 tests. And we go back to early league play. Arkansas on the road at Auburn loses by 13. It was one of those games where you could count missed free throws, and Arkansas really struggled to make shots, ironically, at the rim. That was a game where Arkansas was a bust. When it drove to the basket, it just did not finish well enough. Got to the free throw line a lot in that game by attacking and didn't have a good game there. And so you lose by 13 on the road. But Arkansas has found ways to resemble itself in the worst case scenarios here at the end of the year. And so you're trending the wrong way. But I think this is not a great Auburn team. I was questioning, just like when Arkansas was a top 10 team, Auburn was ranked really highly early in the year, top 15, and I was wondering just how good that team really was. I think both teams right now, Auburn's coming off a big win to have some momentum over Tennessee, a home win coming into this tournament, whereas Arkansas is trying to get up off the mat. I think just based on that, there might be an edge here for Auburn. But when I look at it personnel-wise, if Arkansas can get back to playing sound on the defensive end, I think that they can be in this game, hang in this game, and find a way to win it and write a new chapter. This is a brand new season. I mentioned Arkansas's record in true neutral site games, not road games where you have the opposing team's crowd looking at you. But Arkansas hasn't been good at home against quality competition of late. Yeah, they blew out Florida and Georgia, but this is a different scenario. So Arkansas against Auburn. Here's the irony of it, Will. This is a brand new season. Arkansas is the 10 seed. That sounds horrible, but here's what the bracket looks like. If Arkansas can beat Auburn, that's a quad win. Texas A&M's got that double bye to the quarterfinals on Friday as the 2 seed. Arkansas would be playing a rubber match at a neutral site against A&M, team that just beat Alabama. A ranked team, a team that's one of the hottest teams in the country. When you look at league play beyond, talk about Arkansas's big runs in January and February, mid-January through to March. That's what A&M's had. So Arkansas could have a rubber match there and end up winning. This is all what ifs. Arkansas could lose the first round game, and now you're probably on the bubble, but likely in the NCAA tournament. But having said all that, you got a chance at a rubber match there. If you were to win that game, Kentucky as the 3 seed is on your side of the bracket, and the Wildcats take care of business on Friday quarterfinals, you would be in a rubber match against the Wildcats. So in theory, Arkansas has a chance if they can just get some momentum here in this tournament. I'm not expecting it. I'm not projecting it. There's nothing that tells me really that Arkansas is going to do this, other than they have beaten Kentucky on the road. They have handed A&M one of its few conference losses, and so they're capable. And we know they beat a good San Diego State team at a neutral site. So if it happened that way, Arkansas could end up. We talk about these last three games and the next three games before you ever get to the SEC tournament finals. If Arkansas goes 3-0, they pick up three quad one wins, and they have a better head-to-head record against the 2 and 3 seeds in the league, the second and third place finishers, and maybe a chance at Alabama. So that's dreaming ahead, right? That's there's nothing that Arkansas has done lately to tell me that, but if they can somehow reset and believe, look, nothing else matters right now. We can fix things. At least start on the defensive end. If they can get that ironed out, they can still be clunky in some other areas and find ways to win. It's just not been a team that's done it much, Will, and that's why I'm not predicting those results. Thought there was kind of interesting the situation that Arkansas could go from looking awful to maybe looking pretty good and really improve on NCAA tournament seeding. Now let's talk about that. Joe Lunardi, ESPN bracketologist, has the Hogs still projected as a 9 seed after losing at home to Kentucky. Huh. He's got them as the second ranked out of 4 9 seeds. So they're about 4 or 5 spots off technically being on the bubble. A quad one loss to A&M is not going to kill the net. The net only dropped 2 spots today. They're at 8. Arkansas's at 18. The analytics look great. There's still a path if Arkansas loses to Auburn, and depending upon what other teams are doing that are on that bubble or maybe trending a little better at this time of year than Arkansas, that Arkansas could technically end up on the bubble. I still think at the end of the day, even if they lose that first round game against Auburn, they're likely to get into the NCAA tournament, even if it's as a bubble team. They might even be a team that still has a bye and as either a 10 or 11. Worst case scenario, probably a 10. But if they lose to Auburn, the Razorbacks. But either way, whether it's technically on the bubble or not, I think Arkansas is on the right part of that bubble, even if it goes 0-1 in the SEC tournament and is looking at this now. It would be then 4 consecutive losses and 6 out of their last 8 games. It doesn't look like a tournament team right now, Will. I think then here's the other thing about it's not just one, this is a brand new season. If what I said is true and Arkansas is as close to a lock as maybe you would think they could be under these circumstances for the NCAA tournament, you've got 2 brand new seasons. We've seen teams falter at the end of their regular season, have a great tournament, post-conference tournament, and then fall flat in the NCAA tournament immediately. We've seen the other way around. We've seen teams get bounced early in SEC tournament play and then make a run in the NCAA tournament. In fact, Arkansas the last 2 years has gone 1-1 in SEC tournament play. They haven't been spectacular in league tournament play, but they've made Elite Eight. So the point is if it's true that Arkansas, regardless of what happens in the SEC tournament, bound for the NCAA tournament, the Hogs have 2 more lives, not just 1. So if you look at it from that standpoint, you want to get things turned around in this league tournament for sure. You don't want to say, well, whatever happens, who cares? You would like to see some success there, but I don't think even if Arkansas falters there, I still think there's some hope moving forward, because once you get out of league play, you're not as familiar to most of these opponents on a national level. And Eric Musman is one of the best in the business in figuring out matchups. And so Arkansas will be less predictable playing against opponents who aren't used to matching up with the Hogs.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. I mean, if the Georgia and the Florida game have taught us anything, it's that this team has the ability. We just got to be able to unlock that. I don't want to harp on this Kentucky game, but it wasn't just the football staff that was in attendance for this one. We also had a recruit there. Were you able to meet up with them after the game?
Yes. Well, so, kind of tricky on that. But I did get I got some video and some photos that I put out on social media. We actually reported a couple of days before the game that these guys were coming in. And so we broke that news, but it was Bayfall, who's already signed with Arkansas, a 5-star top 20 guy, is going to play in the McDonald's All-American game later this month. It's great to have, because this is good for recruiting, because he was in tandem with another 5-star from the 2024 class right down the road in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, David Castillo. This guy, is a 5-star tells you he's a high-level guy, but he was part of Team USA's U17 Summer Championship gold medal But a guy that's been he's been a part of USA basketball. When you look back at the last 2 years, he's a scoring point guard, David Castillo, but he's class of 2024 in the house with one of Arkansas's 2 5-star signees, Bay Fall on Saturday. So it's so when you've already got a player signed, you're thinking, well, a visit's great, but how does that move the needle in recruiting? Well, you put him in tandem with a guy that you are recruiting. And so you want those conversations to be going on. These guys are mixing in with former players. I got some video, or current players, excuse me. I got some video post game of Anthony Black out on the floor talking to these guys. And so, you've got a current Hog who's part of the team now, a future Hog in Bay Fall, and a guy they hope will be a Hog. And look, David Castillo's been coming to campus the last 2 years. He's been on campus multiple times to attend football and basketball games. He went to Arkansas's neutral site game in Tulsa against Oklahoma earlier this year. So here's a guy that, I think Arkansas, there's some folks that think he might be, looking at some Big 12 schools as a lean, maybe Kansas. We'll see what happens, but I think Arkansas is trying to stay in the mix there. We know they've had success with 5-stars of late in recruiting, but I thought that was a good look for Arkansas to also have Bay Fall in at Bud Walton Arena. And it was an energized crowd, that he was introduced. They can't introduce the recruit who's not signing a letter of intent, who's just on a visit and not committed, but they were able to with Bay Fall, and he got a big ovation. And fans know, they see these guys there. So I thought it was a great opportunity for Arkansas recruiting. Trenton Flowers, the 5-star out of Combine Academy in North Carolina, had originally a few weeks ago, and we reported this, had planned an official visit. That got rescheduled. Now, I didn't write about that. I knew about it, and then I was told officially that he wasn't coming a few days ago. I decided not to tweet or write about it, but I did put it on hogville.net on the message board that he wouldn't be coming. We'll see if that gets rescheduled. Trenton Flowers, a 6'8", combo guard out of, like I said, Combine Academy in North Carolina, top 25 5-star guy in that 2024 class, who is considering a reclassification to 2023. We'll see where that goes and if Arkansas ends up getting him on campus at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, Kev. It really was nice to see Bay there, and it was awesome to see the ovation that he got. Let's give everybody a little bit of a break here from the must-bust talk, just because I know there's a lot of things to think about going into this SEC tournament. Pro Hogs, what are they up to these days?
Man, the Pro Hogs, you've got a tandem that were high school teammates for a season at Fort Smith Northside. They were both Hogs. They didn't play together at the same time there. But they're with the Oklahoma City Thunder this year. It's the first year in that city for both of them. Isaiah Joe, the third-year guard, who started his first 2 seasons were in the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers. Jalen Williams, Arkansas's big man last year that meant so much to that team. I know fans are missing him right now. But he's a rookie. He was drafted by Oklahoma City, and these guys have been starting together of late for Oklahoma City. And Isaiah Joe just last week after the All-Star break had a career-high 28-point game on the road against Phoenix. Follow that up with a 24-point game. He was in the starting lineup 2 games ago and he had 17 points. And he's just a guy that continues to show his worth and value in this league. And, I think at minimum, he's a 6-man type of player. I think he can be a starter in the NBA. But Isaiah Joe's one of the top 3 3-point shooters in the league when you look at percentage. We look at a lot of other metrics. When you look at his value, net rating, box plus minus, all these different things, and his per minute volume on some of the things he's doing, he's one of the top players in the NBA. And then you look at Jalen Williams. He's second or third right now in drawn charges in the league. And he's played, he hasn't even played 30 games. And so Jalen Williams, we knew he was the leading charge taker in college basketball last year. And here he goes again in the NBA. I think he's going to end up leading the league by the end of the season in drawn charges. But, he's been a volume rebounder. He had a big double-digit rebounding game 2 or 3 games ago. But those charges, we know he can pass. He's a good setup guy. Like the hockey assist, he didn't always get credit for the assist because he's moving the ball. And then his 3-point shooting has emerged. He's over 40%, between 40 and 45% as a 3-point shooter. That's a big deal because it's percentage-wise, it's much better than what he did in the college game where the line's closer. So Jalen Williams is having a solid rookie campaign in tandem with Isaiah Joe, and it's one of the reasons why the Oklahoma City Thunder went from an afterthought. It's the youngest team in the NBA, but now it's a team that's got a chance if not as a playing team, it still has a good mathematical chance to work its way in to one of those top 6 seeds. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but those guys are a big part of the success there. Bobby Portis with the Milwaukee Bucks. He was my leading candidate for Sixth Man of the Year. He was injured, missed a month through the All-Star break, came back after that, immediately had his 30th double-double in his first game back. But in these last few games, his minutes and role have gone down a little bit. And I don't know if they've got him on a minutes restriction or what's going on there. But he's a guy that's going to factor into big into what Milwaukee does. The Bucks have the best record right now in the NBA as we come down the back stretch. Daniel Gafford and Portis will match up tonight when the Wizards and the Bucks play. Daniel Gafford's been in the starting lineup for a while for Washington. He's a shot blocking machine. He's a dunker extraordinaire. He's one of the best. And look, when you look at him in points per shot attempt, he's number 1 in the NBA in points per shot attempt. Isaiah Joe's 12th in the league in that, and ranks first among all guards. But Daniel Gafford's top 10 in blocks, top 2 in effective field goal shooting and true shooting percentage. So here's a guy and his rebounding numbers are going up. He's getting more and more double-doubles of late. So Daniel Gafford with the Washington Wizards, another team that is kind of battling and straddling that play-in line for the playoffs. And so you got a lot of pro hogs. Moses Moody, whose role has diminished of late, but a guy that when I looked at his last 5 or 6 games where he's getting in there and not just playing mop-up time, his box plus minus, even if some of his statistical numbers don't reflect it in his defense, and box plus minus have been surging. So that, even Moses Moody is checking some boxes at the Pro Hogs. And the last one I'll say, Patrick Beverley back in Chicago, his hometown, playing with the Bulls. And, he's been a journeyman of late, but here's a guy that's his hometown of Chicago where Arkansas recruited him out of. Patrick Beverley, we know there's a character beyond just what he does on the court, but he is a character on the court. But one of the best defenders in the NBA, and I was part of a documentary that's being done on him. I was asked to join that earlier in the week, so I had a lot of talking points about Patrick Beverley's time at Arkansas. Now that he's back in Chicago, we'll see how that goes for him and the Bulls.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kev, we definitely love hearing about those guys. And hopefully the next time we're talking with each other, we're talking about a deep run in the SEC tournament. But that's all the time we got for this week. So much more Pig Trail Show after the break.